Now, here's today's host, Dr. Monika Buerger.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another amazing show of ChiroSecure's Look to the Children. And again, I want to thank ChiroSecure for giving us this platform and bringing you amazing information. And I am super stoked today because I have my sidekick, Dr. Erik Kowalke.
Got it. Nailed it.
Yeah, I nailed it, right? So he is my, I don't know if I should call, is it co-host or co-partner?
I like co-host. I could co-host.
Yeah, we co-host on different days.
Yes.
So Erik holds the Look to the Children show on the first Thursday of every month. So if you have not listened to him yet, you better dive in and get his pearls of wisdom. And thanks for joining us today, Doc.
Yeah, this is going to be super fun. I got skipped this month because of Christmas, so I still get to be on, so that's good.
Well, you'll be back February, the first Thursday in February, right?
Yes, for sure, yep.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Erik, he graduated from Like You in 2011. He went out into the trenches, opened up his practice right from the get-go, and he has nailed it. He has got one of the biggest booming practices in the Midwest and one of the biggest pediatric practices around. I am super stoked that you're going to be dropping some pearl bombs here. I'm going to put him in the hot seat, you guys. He sees about a third of his practice is peds, and he's cranking over 1,200 visits a week. So he is seeing some awesome cases and some awesome miracles in his office. He is the owner, founder, creator of an awesome app called SKED. So if you want to take some blocks out of patient scheduling, patient compliance, you got to check out his. And what's the website for that, Doc?
It's SKED, SKE.life, LIFE.
Awesome. But we were talking before the show went live, and some very cool things you can do with this app. So really check that out. And we are going to get a little bit amped over his amped program or his collaboration. And amped is a really amazing program where it's bringing like-minded docs together to mastermind and take advantage of the newest and greatest in all realms of chiropractic. So also check out amped at where, Doc?
That's ampednow.com.
Amped now. Let's get amped now. What do you say?
Let's do it.
You're awesome. So okay, I'm gonna kind of get you from the right hook. How's that?
Okay, let's do it.
All right, let's do this. So you knocked it out of the gate from the get-go. You've been in practice since 2011.
Yep.
And you have a kick butt practice going out there in Wisconsin. No, Michigan.
Close to Wisconsin. I'm from Wisconsin originally.
That's where I got that from. Okay. Hopefully you're not as cold as you're cold out there.
It's cold, unfortunately.
It's cold, huh? So, all right, since you've got a kick butt killer practice at a young age, and by the way, guys, he has 6 little fiddle farts of his own, and he looks so young. I'm like, I feel like I could be your mom. Yeah, he's got an awesome wife, 6 kids, kick butt practice. So 3 pearl bombs. You can do more. I won't hold you to 3, but give these guys 3 pearl bombs of creating this awesome pediatric practice.
Yeah, it's so interesting. When we started in 2011, I didn't know really what I was doing at all. That back then it was, you hire a coach individually to coach you and tell you what you should do, or you start a franchise of somebody else's program. And we really didn't want to do those. So when we opened, it was actually like Friday before we opened on the following Monday. We opened August 1st, 2011, and I had 0 people scheduled in the office. Because we didn't even know you were supposed to do that. I mean, that was, we didn't have any guidance really. So I did a screening that weekend, and I got 13 or 15 patients scheduled for the following week. And in 3 weeks, we were at 100 visits a week.
Oh.
So how did we go from 15 people to 100 visits a week? Well, I took one guy with low back pain, and through the education process, turned into, him and his wife and his 4 kids started care. And then one little girl that I met that, used to dance and now she couldn't dance because she had vertigo. She was one of 6 kids. So then you have 6 kids and 2 adults. You take one little girl, and now you have 8 people. And so it just snowballed like that. And I think a lot of chiropractors just get in their own head, and it's not so much they can't do it. It's just that they overthink it. They overcomplicate things. And I remember when I was in school, I listened to a Reggie Gold tape where he sat down and he did a patient history with somebody. And then once they got through the patient history, he tore it up and threw it in the garbage and said, "This is the last time we'll ever talk about symptoms." And he would like say, "Okay, either you bring your whole family or you don't come at all." And that really stuck with me. And so when I educate, it's really, if they really get chiropractic care and they really get why, they should be adjusted, in the health of the spine and the health of the nervous system, and the fact that nobody else is even looking at that system of their body, why would you not bring your kids? Why would you not want to get them checked, or at least their nervous system's assessed for nerve interference? It's not even logical to think like that. And so if you present it like that way, as it's obvious to do that, and you just remove the barriers of entry for them to get that, their nervous system assessed and their kids' nervous systems assessed, it really just grows rapidly, and you get tons of referrals, because if you're excited about it, they're excited about it, and they're like, "How come nobody's ever told me this before?" And they just go tell everybody. So they start referring people, even if they haven't even had a miracle, or they're not even better yet. They just had a tour of the office, and like their first initial consult, they're already telling other people, because their experience was just truly extraordinary, and the information that you shared with them was life-changing, that they just want to tell everybody else too. And then those people start coming in. So it's really just a passion of chiropractic and just loving what we do, and knowing for certain that if I could just, check them and remove nerve interference, they're going to experience a better life. And just communicating that effectively really helped us grow so fast.
Telling the story. So, okay. So let's talk. We were chatting with Alan a little bit and stuff beforehand. No matter, how many people you see in your office, but with a high volume office, in my past life, I say my California office, I had a very high volume practice too. What is your feel on being able to have a neurologically based chiropractic practice at a high volume level?
Yeah. So I was a mechanical engineer. I don't think I put that on there, but I used to be an engineer before I was a chiropractor. So
makes sense.
I went into chiropractic school very objectively. Like, okay, I'm just going to learn where every nerve goes of the entire spine, and then I'll just know what their symptom is, and I'll just fix the bone that's putting pressure on the nerve going to that part of the body. That's what I thought when I went into chiropractic school. And when I learned it, I started going through neurology stuff in chiropractic school, and what I learned is like, oh my gosh, it's just so much more complex than we can even imagine. Like, even to think that our own bodies can learn how our own bodies work seems illogical. Like, we don't know. We know, but at some point, the innate intelligence of the body is just so much smarter and capable of so much more than we're really willing to give it credit for and can even understand. I just came to that realization when I was in it. Anyways, we do torque release technique, and what I like about that is the leg checks that we do are using the nervous system for information. So we're accessing the nervous system, and it doesn't, all of your techniques, everybody on this call probably does 70 different techniques. And as long as you're being intentional about finding nerve interference, and you have, reliable indicators that can show you places and signs of nerve interference, and your technique gives you an ability to remove the nerve interference and improve the function of the nervous system, however you choose to do that, you're going to help people get better. And there's really no right or wrong way to do it. It's a lot of it's intent too. What was frustrated me so much when I was a student is, as thinking objectively, I wanted to know, okay, give me a technique that's A, B, C, D, and if you see this, you do this. If you see that, you do this, and it's black and white.
You want a cookbook.
And what you learn in practice is there's no cookbook.
There's no cookbook chiropractic. No.
There's the art of it. And sometimes, I don't know if you call it your intuition or like sixth sense or whatever, but when you're present with a child and you're assessing them, things just show up, and you see things and you analyze things through experience and everything else, and you just are led to adjust certain things in areas of the spine as part of your technique, and it just all comes together. So I don't think there's a right or wrong way to adjust, but I think the key is to be really present and intentional whenever you are assessing somebody for nerve
Yeah.
interference, and that is even more important than like, oh, do you do this technique or that technique?
Absolutely. And I find, because I work with a lot of special needs children, right? And kids and animals, they have that sixth sense. They can figure you out really fast.
Yeah.
And they can figure out your intent and if you're in there right for the right reason. And
Totally.
if you're thinking about a text message or this or that, they know. And
Yeah.
they will act up. They'll respond to in that manner. So I think intent is very much key. You're right on, spot on that. And when we do the adjustment, it's really resetting that information that brain is processing, and we know that now from so much of the research. And so, I think whatever volume practice you can choose, if you're doing it for the right intent, if you're being specific, if you can reset that
Well,
volume.
I know what else, Monica. I think people are afraid. They don't see a lot of kids. They're kind of like afraid of pediatrics. Like,
I'm gonna break them.
yeah, they're just not sure. Like, what do I do with the kid? And like, I would say, if anything, less is more. Like, the
Absolutely.
more, you can just way over adjust the kid, and you're not
Absolutely.
necessarily going to hurt them. You just won't see them heal as fast.
The adjustment's so powerful, and you have this big metabolic blast to the brain, and
Totally.
they're so overwhelmed sensory wise anyway, and have this sensory gaps that you put that input into the brain, you put that adjustment, and it's extremely powerful, and they can short circuit on you very fast.
Yeah, and I think what's really important is to understand, because some chiropractors think that the mom or the parent is paying for what they're physically doing on the
Yeah.
table. So the more I do is like bringing value to what they're paying for that visit.
And that takes us right back. You made it. That's an excellent point, because that brings us right back to how much we value what we do, right?
It is, and you think
And
like, well, my adjustment, I should get paid $90 a visit or $150 a visit. There really isn't. Like, if I would pay $1,000 a visit if my kid, needed it. Like, I pay $1,000 to get him adjusted. I pay $10,000 if I knew, like what I know. Like, there's really no limit. It's worth more than what you'll ever get paid for it. It really comes down to, finding something that you can serve people, and that is a reasonable. You're getting paid. You're getting reimbursed for like what you should be to grow your business and market and expand. But ultimately, we're in a service industry to serve people, and they're not paying for what you're doing. They're paying for the result of what's going to happen through your expertise and what you're doing. And it doesn't even. That's why there's not a time thing. Like, once somebody told me, I don't know if this was an analogy or a story or what, but they walked up to Picasso sitting on a park bench, and he was drawing something, a mural, and they said, well, can you draw a mural of me? And he just like, in 20 seconds drew a mural of them and showed it to him, and they're like, wow, it's amazing. And he's like, okay, $10,000. And they're like, $10,000? It took you 20 seconds to draw that. He goes, but it took me a lifetime to learn how to draw that in 20 seconds.
right.
The more you learn, like, you think, we were just talking about the program that you have, and I was super interested in it because I would like to know more about. It's basically a culmination of 30 years of your knowledge and information into that, which is exactly what it is when you deliver an adjustment. It's 30 years of your information and your knowledge and your experience into, a few minutes or 15 minutes or however long it takes for you to assess and adjust that child. That's the value. It's not the physical of what's happening and what you're doing on that visit.
Yeah, exactly. And the repercussions are so profound, of what we do. So I think for young chiropractors, understanding your own value, it you know is very critical. So if I were in an elevator with you and we're doing the elevator speech thing, so you have, especially a new grad out there, somebody that's wanting to or wanting to develop a pediatric practice or wherever they are in their career. Give me a 10-second elevator speech of why we need to bring our kiddos in to get adjusted.
So I have 6 kids, 4 months old, 3 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old, 9 years old, and 11 years old. So it's really easy for me to start conversations with parents that have kids. Once I find out they have kids, I just simply asked, have you ever had their nervous systems checked or their spines checked? And usually they're like, no, I haven't, right? I'm like, well, it's really interesting in the field of work that I do, that's what I do. But, it's commonplace and common knowledge that we take our kids in and we get, their heart looked at and we get the different systems of their body checked and maybe their blood drawn and we look for things. And we're like, we do that proactively. We measure their height and their weight and we try to make sure that they're staying healthy. When in their life do we look at the function of their spine or their nervous system? And you just let them respond. And they're like, oh, I don't know, probably never. Well, usually when they're 35 and they have chronic low back pain and they come in and they have degenerated low lumbar spine, and it happened when they were 6 and they fell off the park bench. And they just never knew it because it took 30 years to happen or 25 years to happen. They're like, wow. So what we do in our office, we have state-of-the-art technology that allows us to assess the spine and nervous system, which is why we see hundreds of kids every single week, because we can see, is there an underlying dysfunction, something going on that we can be proactive with now, help them stay healthy now so they don't end up like that as an adult. And it really just allows us to see kids and optimize their health so they can live a long, healthy life like we all hope to live too.
Awesome. Awesome. And we know from neuroscience, neurophysiology, that chronic diseases, whatever label you want to give it, diabetes, heart disease, neurodegenerative diseases, they start 20 years before the symptoms show up. And it's all regulated by the nervous system. And we know that the nervous system is the immune system. So giving them that little tidbit, as well as, you give the analogy, they fell off the park bench and 30 years later they have degeneration, but also what other neurological compromise might they end up with
Totally
20 years down the road. And, I get a lot that question like, oh my gosh, we can't figure out why autism is on the rise. And I'm like, really? I'm not a rocket scientist, but I study a lot and looking at all the stress factors that are on the nervous system now. And we know that once that nervous system is dysregulated, the whole neurophysiological, cascade from that. So for you docs out there, I think tying that analogy in as well as, 30 years from now, we might see the neurodegeneration, the degeneration of lumbar spine. But also, what about other health consequences? So,
and you even talk about, most people, if they don't have pain and symptoms, they don't think there's anything wrong.
Right.
So you're really educating them on pain and symptoms is just such a small indicator of nerve interference and a nervous system problem that if we can use objective findings and subjective findings to find and locate and remove, your function of your body is just going to be better.
Yeah, and adapt at it. The nervous system being adapt. When that adaptation, when we get narrow, now we can no longer take that extra stressor that's coming in, and the nervous system can't adapt anymore. And that's when they see symptoms. Then that's when you start having the headaches or chronically getting sick or whatever.
And what else bringing that up, I think as chiropractors, we're used to seeing people come in with a condition or some sort of symptom, and then we provide a solution to that symptom. And it's easy to sell them a solution to the symptom and the problem because they're fighting it and it's affecting their life. When the reality, if they really understood what we understood, they start care and they pursue care not to fix the symptom, but for the lifelong benefits of what you're going to do. And the side effect of what you're going to do is probably going to help the symptom, but it's going to help so many other things for such a long time that it just makes sense to do that instead of just going to treat the symptom.
Exactly.
And it's just a mind shift, but if you can get them to think that before they even start care, then you don't have to always be selling them on, you're not selling them on, we're going to fix your problem. And then, oh, by the way, you should keep coming forever. It's selling them on like, what are we even doing and why are we even doing it? The side effect of that is, your problem's going to improve probably and go away, but it's even more important that we do this. And this is really why you should be doing chiropractic.
Exactly. And what I always tell them, I say, what I want to do is you're coming in for X, Y, or Z, but most illnesses start 20 years before they show up as a symptom. So what we're going to do is take care of the here and now, but keep the train on the tracks before it derails. Because once it derails, then it's harder to get that train back on the tracks, that's when you end up with something, the big, bad, ugly stuff that we don't want to see. And then when they think of that like that, especially when they're starting their little fiddle farts out, right at birth, how we want to keep that train smooth and on the tracks and not derailed and end up with some label that we all know, the labels that we hit now, the autism and the ADD and ADHD and et cetera. And they get that. Do you find that they understand that?
Totally. So let me ask you this, and I took your classes through the ICPA 11, 12 years ago.
Oh, long time.
And, when you take them as a student, it's like just way over your head and so much information. You're like, I caught 10% of that. And, out of all the things that you've learned over the years and your experience, how do you what would your elevator pitch be without just going way over their head so they don't even know what you're talking about?
Oh, good question, Red. I like to talk to them about how there's a connection between the brain and the body and the body and the brain. The brain needs to be able to perceive the information that's coming from their outside world and within their body. And the body sends that information up to the brain so the brain can know how to respond appropriately. So let's say your little fiddle fart is sitting in class and needs to concentrate on math or getting information from the blackboard and copying it down. The brain is expecting a certain amount of information from its environment, including the body, to come up, and then the brain interprets that information and sends a response back down, a motor response. So I know how to hold my pen in space, how to focus my eyes up and down to grasp that information. When we have a subluxation, when there's not that the information coming into the brain is skewed from the world or the body, there's a gap in that information. And the brain wants to help the body be able to adapt to that gap so it can do what it's supposed to do. So what that might look like is your little fiddle fart has to move around a lot in class so we get enough of that information coming in. Or they like to pinch or push or pull. That's getting that gap filled so that they can try to sit and do the tasks that they need to do. And what chiropractic does, it helps fill that gap.
Yep.
And that really makes sense for a lot of people that I work with because so many of their kids are struggling with learning and behavior.
And that's awesome. And that makes so much sense, I think, to parents explaining it like that. As an engineer, I love explaining it to people in whatever their profession is too. So what's fun is to find out what the parent does.
Yep.
So if the parent's in like automotive or something, like because in when they teach you in control systems and engineering, they have afferent and efferent, communication back and forth to the control center. It's the same, when I took chiropractic school, it's like, oh my gosh, they're talking about afferent, efferent control. It's a control system, it's just the brain, and it can heal itself. Like, how amazing is that? But you can relate that to anything, like as a car. There's all these sensors on a car now that tell you whether you're going to hit somebody or, run in. If the sensor's not working properly and the car doesn't know that you're about to hit something and doesn't tell you and you're relying on it, you're going to run into something.
Absolutely. The latest one that I started using was there was two planes that I forgot what airport. One was a Delta plane, and it came and landed and wasn't supposed to land because another plane was taken off. This was just a couple weeks ago. Well, when it landed, it ended up blocking the runway of the plane that was going to take off. And if you heard the radio control back and forth from the air traffic control to the pilot of the plane that was blocking the thing, he said, "Oh, I thought you said I was cleared to land," because there was almost going to be a collision there. That's what's happening with the brain.
Totally.
And if you don't get that good communication, you're going to end up with a big crash at some point.
Yeah.
So I've been able to use that, and people are like, "Oh, I get it," So there's a lot of fun things. And I think, you do that in some of your programs. I do that in my programs. And that's what we're all about, is how to bring it down and simplify it so docs can be as successful out there. So if you're listening, docs, pick up on some of these lingo, whatever resonates with you, and start simplifying it, but also don't lose value of the big picture of what you are providing. I think that's key. Totally. So where do you see the future of pediatric chiropractic? What do you think?
Interesting. If you Google search pediatric chiropractic, you get just a ton of videos of people adjusting babies, which can be misconceived, perceived, and like totally taken out of context and used almost against our profession, like it did in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So I think, if you haven't, have you seen the new Vax 2 movie yet?
Yeah.
So there's enough research out there, just like there's enough research that proves a subluxation exists and what it does, but they're always going to say there's never enough research. I'm not saying we don't keep doing research, but they're always going to refute that, or they can look at the research and say, well, it's not the gold standard because of this. But if you remember seeing all of those parents sign the bus for all their damaged vaccine injured kids, if you have enough parents and testimonials of people saying, they say, oh, that's anecdotal, but you get enough of it. Like if all of us, there's 25,000 chiropractors emailed on this show. If all of them just did 10 testimonials a year, pediatric testimonials, that's 250,000 pediatric video testimonials. If we did 10 a year and put them online, not what you're doing and how you're adjusting them and like all of that stuff, but the parent with their child saying, here's Johnny, this is what happened, this is what he was like, he got adjusted, he had subluxations, they were removed, now this is what Johnny is. You times that by 10 years, you have 2.5 million videos of people with testimonials in chiropractic. It doesn't matter what they say that it doesn't work. That's just such an overwhelmingly amount of evidence to prove that, enough that parents are going to like, man, maybe this is legit. Maybe I should check it out. So I honestly think, like big mission vision wise, we need to just fix the perception of what chiropractic here is, and that subluxation isn't real and doesn't, isn't a thing. It doesn't make sense and doesn't work. And that we should just be focusing on low back pain. And I think we do it through testimonials and video testimonials and social media and an online presence of truth and parents actually telling the story and showing what happened to their kids. I think that's how we're going to fix it.
Good job. Good job. In fact, I'm doing a workshop called Misperceptions. It's open to the public, and I'll shoot you that link too, Doc, and maybe I'll put it on the link on this page too, about brain-based chiropractic in a couple of weeks. So how we can shift that perception and how we can talk about it differently, and in that, how we can do campaigns like this to really get the word out. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and what's so interesting is like it's just learning. As a chiropractor, it's just learning, how do I educate more effectively?
Yeah.
And how do I communicate the effectiveness and the power of what it is that I'm already doing? And as we were talking earlier, your program, Developing Minds, you were mentioning how you guys do clinical rounds where for a couple hours you all get together and talk about cases and stuff. That's just, the more you are so certain in your heart of certain things, you can communicate like,
yes,
just with certainty, like, hey, I know I can help you, and like give them hope. It improves your sign-on rate, it improves your conversion, and it improves your retention, it improves your
your outcomes overall.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, certainty is where it's at. So, and that's what you're doing. And I know Alan's probably like, we got to wrap this up a little bit soon, but we could go on forever and ever. But thanks for taking time out of your third Thursday schedule. And I'm sure we can revisit this again down the road. But thanks for the Pearl Bombs. Thanks for your first Thursday. Now I don't have to reiterate that, as I usually do at the end of the show. That make sure you watch Erik's show the first Thursday of every month, and he drops Pearl Bomb after Pearl Bomb. And we'll just definitely have to make this another round 2 one time.
Totally, I would love to. And don't forget that, a lot of you guys watch Monika, but what she's doing and what she's totally progressing with the profession is huge. And so she doesn't really promote herself that much. It's called devmindsu.com. DEV mind MINDSU.com is their whole university she just launched in October, and it's awesome. And I would encourage you to check it out, and just continue to learn more, to just serve more people. So I'm giving you a plug because you don't plug yourself enough.
I don't. It really is about certainty. You hit the nail on the head. The more we own it, the more certain we are, the more we can serve. So certainty is serve, right?
That's right.
All right. Hey, Doc, you have an awesome new year, but we will come back and circle back at one point in time and get together again. And again, don't forget to watch Erik the first Thursday of February. He's going to blow your socks off with some more information. And again, to ChiroSecure, thank you so much for allowing us this platform and really digging in to try to make a difference, because bottom line is ChiroSecure, all the docs on this show, everybody is really out there with a huge heart and a huge commitment to chiropractic and to making a change. So I'll see you the third Thursday of February. And until then, you guys go out there and keep changing lives.
See ya.
Bye.
Today's Pediatric show, Look to the Children, was brought to you by ChiroSecure.